Welcome. Another shallogram focus video. Okay, so some tabs I have open. This one, I just thought it was interesting. It looks kind of like a planet. Maybe where the continental crust is the black part that is more dense. And then, or less dense, more substance. Less dense, maybe? I don't know. Because I was thinking the gold is like the ocean floor that filled space between. Because it's certainly a current that flows. Anyway, so that one I just thought was interesting. I didn't have much to say on it in the moment, except for that it looks kind of spherical. And I think it's like a. It's hard to say. It looks like they're both outward protruding in that image. This one looks inward, and this is outward, so it's. I guess this one is the inward one. Crazy. Okay, then this one. So that's from this. This is from this shop, Rohan Gems, Rudraksh Guru store, which is where I get most of the shallogram images. This is their Etsy store, I believe. And then I was looking around for other ones. I didn't find many other places. So before I move on, this one's interesting because let's just open the images. Here it's just a bunch of squares, which is kind of odd. Not normal. There's a triangle, but like generally speaking, other shapes than squares, but like generally square-like. Pixelated almost, like pixels maybe. And then it's got, this one has a sort of two bumps here. Almost like a shallogram feature, like. Let's find one. That's connected. Basically one that's connected still out on the outer boundary. Like this. Like this. Kind of doing something of this nature, but not actually yet carving in, just like beginning to subtly influence it. That's what I feel like maybe is happening here by the shapes. Just a thought. I don't know. Like it's got almost like maybe I don't like right here, and then this way across kind of, and then up this way, down this way, maybe down this way a bit. I don't know. But so this, all these squares just kind of have this boundary where they're really not past. This is the other side of the bottom side of the rock. So here are those things. Looking from the top, the bottom side, we see almost like this gap here, which is interestingly near this gap is. Like almost energetically connected to it, like it was where a current flowed. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it being divided like this. It's almost like the current only flowed in the top half. Which is kind of how, if you watch my Earth's undercurrents, if you imagine only like part of the process occurring, it may only be like the top half before it begins to reach the southern hemisphere more substantially filling there. So it's possible if the process were to be not as substantial that it could focus one hemisphere only and induce currents in it that then produce features that are like something of this nature. Okay, so everything else is an image either from one of those shops I just showed or the Rouge Rock. This one. Rouge Rock Guru. Yeah, that one. Okay. And my last video, I'm trying to think where I left off in the last video. I meant to look. Let's just assume this one is the first new one. Maybe some of these before. So I'll just click through them. I think this is new. Like that might be the last one here. Let's start here for now. I think this is new, but I haven't talked about this one yet. This I found really interesting because it has this pillar thing, and then it has the more typical like ring chakra structure. And this pillar tends to happen in places like here's one. But where they're long pillars is like they don't tend to have shallogram features, so it's cool to see the ring structure around it here. And then there's just all sorts of stuff going on this rock. Stone, whatever terminology is most appropriate. Here, we see a bunch of little divots. Irregular to a degree where it doesn't really make sense for a fossil in my interpretation. This looks interesting. Okay, and there we see this fabric right through it. So whatever happened here seems to me to be a current that drills in where it's flowing. It runs into resistance, and then it basically flows out. But then it penetrates enough where it has a boundary. So when it flows out, it then begins to spiral, or I guess, or maybe in this instance more so just flow out in channels that are more just like this one. That aren't spiraled, they're just kind of channels outward. I'm not sure why that would happen in that instance. If it's like a current in, which almost requires a generally perpendicular, not necessarily exactly, but some degree of perpendicularness. Which is maybe indirectly happens by flowing into one of these and then spiraling out in like a J. Instead of getting caught, it bends and then loops back out. And then that creates a like sideways chakra then. Something of that nature maybe is more so what's going on here, where although that still kind of doesn't make sense for these angles here. Okay. Just some thoughts. Let's move on though. I don't want to get caught on any single shallogram, because I have something like 180 now, because I just was taking a bunch of pictures. This one has just so many features that probably have indicators towards things that are not immediately popping in my head. Here's another shallogram, lobe type structure, boxes. This one has what looks to be the shallogram. It's almost like it's carving in and removing material and like physically saturating into the material and taking components and differentiating it somehow in some way that actually changes its appearance and carves out regular shapes. Like, look at this. This doesn't actually make sense for fossils because this is one of those lobes, but it's just a bunch of little, like, points. Almost like craters. And again, we see here's some lines, but then here's some lines this way, and then this way, this way. So right around this structure, it is like generally a square of lines. Like there was a containment, a boundary that this current kind of ran into resistance just because there were currents flowing in those directions. Maybe even one that flows into here and kind of spiraled here. Or out of here. I don't know. They got shot out of it. It spiraled here, but then it started to channel out. These lines are also seemingly related to these indentations or whatever. Intrusions? I don't know. Here's more like the just straight pillar type of thing going on, and then that structure again. Just those structures again, that pillar, the two sides kind of getting carved out but not connected through. Like it still has a boundary behind this. I went kind of fast there. Let's go back. Okay. This I noticed is just kind of this hole in there. I don't know. Okay. Just some images of this one that just have features. I figured even if I didn't have much to say on them, I should at least document them. Okay. This one I found interesting. It kind of has like an overlay. I don't know if that matters in the way these two connected to one another. Like, and this one's missing a chunk, but then connects through to like a chakra kind of thing. And then it just has this beam that really just column of energy seemingly that just went through like in this process of whatever was going on in the larger scale of things. At times seemingly it was just beams of energy like that just created like an opening, like a laser beam that in those movies or whatever, where it's like the body is just like cut through, whatever, and maybe not even a human, but something cut through that's just it's missing because a beam went through. That's kind of what's going on here. Where that beam came from exactly, it doesn't seem to be the stone itself. It's too clean, straight, unaffected by the stone. It's just like, what up, peace. Some more shallow ground features that are incomplete. Elongated. Incomplete, but like just subtly etched into the boundary of the stone. There's probably both positive and negative forms where they're coming from the outside and from within, and effectively like a void forming from the within, where like a current, maybe from outside, a current gets in and then a void starts to form, where this current occupies the space, but then the stone is no longer there, and then the current later exits the space and is not there either. So now there's just a void. And then maybe it does it both ways, where like the current can just flow outside, like because of pressures at the stone's boundary, like just flow outside and like influence it by physically having a equivalent system forming at the boundary here that begins to etch the stone. Something of that nature, where over here maybe it began to form within, or it physically etched enough. I don't know. Just kind of circular things, noteworthy. Again, the lines. We're gonna get to ones that are really good. I just started where I started, and this is something that I made note of, and like I started taking images of anytime I saw stuff like this. It made me think of salt. I know it's kind of basic to conclude that or think like that, but it made me think of salt, or just some kind of like water that calciated. I don't think that's the right word. You know what I'm saying. Water that brought in some mineral and it then like formed there as that material. So like up here also. So that kind of thing, where like a transport of material of a mineral comes in, that especially happens at like maybe some kind of salt related process that I'm not really sure why I want to insist on that, but I feel like from like an alchemical standpoint there's probably something of that nature, especially even if not like a straight chemistry sense. Here, that looks almost like another of those balls, which maybe even not quite in line. Okay, let's see. Again with that kind of etching. Like maybe it's etching at the boundary, but then it breaks through a like region and starts to get in, but then the back pressure holds that in, and new current is able to just start to fill a zone, and then that produces a shallogram feature ultimately because of the containment. Probably just a lot of pressure of water, probably maybe heated water, that's just saturating through these stones that are maybe being shaped entirely by the process. I don't know to what degree they were preformed in essence. It seemed maybe just straight up like shaping them, because it seems like they're still malleable. So it's probably that they're still malleable to a degree. Although this looks more like it's breaking, so it may be dependent. I don't know. Like it's not as like just bending. It looks more like it's just needed to like flake off material instead of like snap off, I guess. I don't know. Some more of those. I swear some of these are going to be really like, again with the current that connects through, as a tendency for them to do, where they're just interconnected, which fossils really, there's no reason for them to be, unless we want to like be like, well, when the fossils are in there, and then the fossilization process includes steps that are we're realizing are make it so that the fossils connect to one another in the process. I mean, if we want to go that route, and just continue to insist on fossilization. We can, but it doesn't actually make more sense than just currents connect to one another. And that's what happened. Okay, this one is kind of interesting because it's not another of these. Also, I did not notice this. It may be the only one I've ever seen that doesn't have a distinct, like, tab, and even maybe has, like, an anti-tab here. Like, the tab is missing. Usually they have, like, a protrusion out. It's kind of, maybe not necessarily here, wherever, but somewhere around this terminal. But so this is it from the side. It's looking more like a hot pocket or something now, rather than like a sphere. Like a lot of the other ones are kind of like a ball. I guess I don't know why I don't have the other image. There's basically two chakras closed at the back here. It's just closed. And it's too bad I don't have it, because it doesn't really make sense. Here's one with a kind of, I'm not sure if this would be considered part of this or a separate thing. I'm not sure. But here's a separate one. I noticed also the way it does this. Like it's removing the material. Sometimes it's just gone like this. And usually it's not like mid-process where we see like major steps in what was like a current flowing in a material, but then like the matrix was not as influenced in this region, this like just base material, where this region became like a unit, and then the currents around the unit like started to strip away between the boundary of the unit and this material that it formed within as the currents flowed. And as that happened, it like revealed just current flow paths stripping the material away in a unique way that I haven't seen something like this one before. So here's that shallogram on top of maybe even one with like this. Like it may not really make sense as a separate system. And then also the top of this one is like this substance. So as this undercurrent atop of this ammonite type structure that the shallogram shell that formed took the shape of, because of the currents shaping it on top of it, between it and the matrix layer atop it, a current is like, I guess, swirling, and maybe it was swirling especially here. Maybe it's just, I don't know, but in a way where like it wasn't just flowing out the channels, it was also cycling and then out the channels. Or in, probably out though. It looks like these are outlets, the way they are like carving at the outer boundary. Like I feel like an inlet would actually like compile here and then blow the top, like produce something like this. Like maybe this was an inlet. That's the other side. Similar thing going on. This one's got a little ring around it, so I took a picture. Also, these just straight these don't really make sense. This is something that I point to, just like the sharpness of the stone's angles don't really make sense from an erosion standpoint. Like if there's a fossil forming, that like erosion plus time are big aspects of the equation plus coincidence, then it shouldn't produce such like perfect boundaries. This one may not be the best representation to say that over, but I'll point it out later. Like, this I found interesting. It's reminiscent of my Earth from a different angle video, where I kind of point out like there's a lot of like 120-degree angles. I don't know if this one is around the continents of Earth, like what's going on here, especially Africa. And then 135 along the southern boundary of Australia, a lot of them. It's very like too regular to be without need of explanation. And so to see it here again with that column, and then we can even see it came from this side, because this side it's chilling, it's not influenced like over here, but over here it pushed a mound that kind of pushed out this little phallic shape. And then over here something's going on off the side of it, which is interesting, almost like a tidal wave. It came in, and then this side wasn't as affected in the same way as this side. Maybe it was like this side was kind of like this, like hanging out here. It came in not just straight, but like straight and over, kind of. I don't know. Something with some motion. I don't know why it would do that exactly. Maybe the stone is moving. I don't know. In my mind, they're not moving that much, but maybe. It's kind of interesting, though. I don't know what to make of that. Okay. This one, I just started taking pictures of these. Very common. This, I feel, is just like when the current is not at the boundary. Like in this case, it's at the boundary, so it's not contained. So because it's not contained, it's not influencing the stone as much. But here, it's contained, so it really transforms the stone to have features like that within this, that within this, another just like something. I wonder what relationship that has to the two sides here. It looks like presumably, yeah, this is probably the top here too, yeah. So if there's a current coming up this way, maybe there's also a current going up off to the side this way. Looks like, generally speaking, there. I don't know what to make of it exactly. Another one. Another one. That one was real flat and thin, which was surprising. Here's another, the like sand thing. Also, this reminded me of the Eye of the Sahara. A terminal. I was like, because I don't really know what to make of it, like unequivocally in terms of what actually caused it. It's not Atlantis. That's my interpretation. Pardon me if it is. But it is interesting, and I don't know what exactly to make of it. It doesn't seem like a traditional system like a lot of other systems are, like an impact crater. Like a lot of them kind of are like one another. This one seems a little different, the Rakat structure, in ways that are like, I don't think that this necessarily makes sense. Like if a current flows atop it, why it would be related to a Rakat structure. Like, does the Ricard structure form? If essentially, it would mean that the Ricard structure is a terminal, like on a shallogram, one of these things that can have like that pillar which the Earth itself has at the North Pole-ish by Siberia. Here's another one. Kind of shows that spiral out thing going on. Also, it looks like it even has an ammonite type thing, like a shell. Here's that little protrusion. They always have it. They seem, except that one. I don't know. This one seems to have it. Maybe this indicates how it forms, because essentially it looks like a current gets kind of maybe flows around the stone, but within it or on it in some way where it's like held to its surface, like gravity basically. And then in so doing, it flows around to like focal point that it gets trapped at, which becomes a pole like this, and then begins to like carve down into the stone because it has nowhere else to go but downward, and starts to carve, and then it shapes out this hole, and then it starts to carve like out through the stone down and in this way. And here I guess it just like stopped and ramped back out. I don't know. But it started to form one of this kind of thing, but in a different way, maybe. This one was interesting. Like, what? It's almost like a shallogram inside of another shallogram. Is that what I'm supposed to interpret this as? This thing is just incredible. I'm not saying. And then here's an eyeball looking thing, but also kind of like that beam, that kind of glancing blow or something. I don't know. We see those lines again. Lines again. Interestingly, the lines go this way and this way and like divide around this region, maybe. This is the other side. Another one with a bunch of like sand type of thing going on. This also looks almost like an ammonite within it. These ones, like this structure, like within the structure itself. I don't know. Not to say that that's what's going on there, but it kind of has an appearance like it. Just curious. And this almost looks like overlapping circles. Holy, like each one of these lobes is really just like a circle on its side. It's like the unit, the fundamental iterative particle. The iterative fundamental particle that the Earth is, an atom is, they all are representative of, but like something about them is, oh my god, flat Earth proven is over. What have I done? What have I done? Somehow it's flat like that. I don't know. Like maybe it has a sphere at the center of a plane that reaches to infinity in its own fractal nature. And then another one with a tiny little, like, macro sphere relative to the system that then is like its nucleus, that then is an iterative fundamental particle that then just overlays one another and forms probably as this current flows, is shaped by it, brought to life by this current flow. I talked about circle type shapes in the last one. Something shallograms shaped by God's hands, I believe. 156, 157, 158, somewhere in there. Okay. I need to freaking... Here's one with a beam on the top. Beam. Another just kind of window into this, but not like the full structure, which is interesting. Just like a beam. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know what to make of this. What happened to it? It's almost like it boiled it because the beam maybe lingered enough and then created some kind of like channels out for like mini channels of currents to flow out from the lingering beam. I don't know. Might have to call this one the lingering beam for how long I've been talking about shallograms. It's like, oh, he won't stop. This one looks like a turtle. It's so cool. Like what? Like a turtle, straight up. Little turtle eye, little turtle nose, turtle shell, turtle. Not so much from this angle, I'm not even sure. I think this is the head. It's kind of got another eye, maybe there, I don't know. Pretty incredible, though. Maybe that's the same feature, I'm not even sure. Here we see that one of those beams, but then it meets resistance here. Probably related to that there's a current over here that then causes resistance to this current flowing this way, which then produces a spiraling there, which is generally what's happening like in this instance, probably in here. This one's real interesting. I don't know what to make of that. It looks like a sideways chakras, not like just up down, kind of like, it looks more like this, but within like a sphere, ball, circle, oval. Stop sign. I don't understand. Some other thing that's not, that's an octagon shape. I mean, it's not quite a stop sign. Maybe. What do you mean? Well, I guess I could call it for now. This one looks like it like slid, like it physically was like this, and then pressure like moved it off of the top, and it just slid this way and folded, and then is now frozen in that shape. So cool if that's the case. It doesn't look like it from those angles as much as from this angle. So maybe not. Maybe I'm just wishful thinking. I'd say I'm wishful thinking on that one. I acknowledge it. Okay. I don't know why that's wishful thinking. This is reminiscent of my last video again, where I was talking about that red stone that had the currents. Just kind of like maybe why there's a bubble here, a current here that like pushed in at that boundary because it was almost like a continuous, like a string that held the boundary. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. That seems like it might physically be related to that shape. That's cool right there. I don't know if there's a better picture of it. It looks like one of those, like that hand of God feature I was talking about in the last video. Oops. Okay, this one I found interesting because what in the... First of all, it's sort of kind of forming a chakra system here, but not really. Second of all, if you follow this way and this way we follow it, and it goes into this dendrite system, goes up, up, down, let's say up, down, up, down, up, down, and then maybe that way, and this way. And then there's like maybe a beam type of current that seemingly punctures right here from an outside system, like a channel coming in. Here's the other side. So basically it goes this way, and then it goes this way, and then it wraps around, and one continuous strand physically wraps around this stone. So this stone has a single continuous strand around it containing dendritic features that are supposedly those of like a fossil, but they're not on a fossil, they're on the stone because they wrap around the stone, but I don't think the stone is a fossil. So like what? This one is proof positive, conclusive evidence. Shallograms are not fossils right here. And guess what? Here's another angle. Looks like an inlet here. Then maybe it ramps over this kind of and then comes in here and interacts with the current, either going either this way or this way. Maybe this way around this and then back around here, where it runs into itself here, which then pushes it this way. So then it comes over, runs into it, pushes it this way, and it breaks off this way. But it's got so much current and pressure holding it that it passes this, and then once it passes this strand of like pressure, maybe like around here, it's able to generally like begin to break down this way, maybe, or maybe go across even this way. Maybe it even starts to do those like prongs, currents across that we see at times. It looks like it on Earth as well, not just on shallograms, but those like raking structures that I've mentioned in the last one as well. I don't know if that's the same as what caused lows as this kind of thing, is not in the same place. This looks related to the feature, the dendrite feature itself. But then like a current basically gets by, and then it looks like this one goes down here, and then runs into resistance sort of and branches off this way because of this current coming across, like splitting it, which maybe feeds into here being so large. But ultimately, maybe it just kind of gets pulled back this way through the channels, and sometimes through these channels, but like flowing like a river, compressed against the rock, carving into it, the shapes and creating these features. This one very much like the stone, like the red stone I showed yesterday I was talking about. This one from the agate dude. A rhodochrosite stalactite from Argentina. Very reminiscent here. Kind of odd. If these are fossils, here's a another of those lobes. Again, with the current off of it, seemingly at a specific point, like in the middle region here, that tends to happen. Seemingly. Off this way, and also up here, like. It's like a little heart. Broken heart. Mended. So cool. This probably shows, like, yesterday I was kind of talking about how the circle features seem like they create a circle, they fill a circle, and then at some point they should, like, shoot a beam to, like, move to the boundary of the next circle, and then they start to kind of do this. So maybe to, like, reach a point of resistance, where total resistance, where the back pressure equals the pressure of the, or equal resistance, I don't know. Where the back pressure and forward pressure are equal, and so what it does then is branches off in both directions, seemingly, and comes back and cycles back, carving channels wider, but subtly through the particles, and creating like a porosity that then begins to create like a mineralization and a differentiation of the materials, where overall the shape is caused, but it doesn't actually carve out the feature of the shallogram. It just begins to shape it. So cool, this one. It looks kind of like the snake head thing I keep running into in other images, especially where this is kind of like a mouth, an eyeball, like the chin or whatever, or dragon head, as others seem to call it. And maybe is more accurate, and maybe not, I don't know. And it also seems to have like a weird, whatever's going on here. This kind of made me think of that it was shot by a beam kind of thing again, but maybe not. Like, whoa. I mean, this thing here is related to this thing here, is related to this thing here, is related to this thing here. Like, they're not independent. So if this is a fossil, then this must be part of the fossil. It just must be. And it really makes no sense that it would be. It really just looks like two components of a rock that formed by the same process. Not by a fossil's presence, though, or a shell's presence, or whatever explanation we could possibly have for what living creature left behind its remnants and created this. Probably even this. This also has that little nub. Which is kind of like this one, as well as like the top terminal thing. I'm not sure if they're both generally related then. They're probably the same process then. Ultimately like a spiraling current. Maybe it goes this way. And then this way. But then at some point it's able to like break through. I don't know. It's also got a little brow, forehead thing. Okay. This one, as cool as it is, I don't know what to make of it. It also looks kind of like one of those, like, I don't know, Dutch shoes or something. I'm not sure what to, which, which location I'm thinking of, but this is the side of it. So there we see this feature. This is the back, opposite side of the chin, I guess. The neck, maybe. And it's got this maybe even spine type thing. I don't know. That would be cool if this actually like channeled through all the way, like to here even somehow. And it interacted with the region. That would be so cool. I don't know. But there's one of those like rake things there. So I guess this is the bottom. This must be the bottom here. Just based on this. It's kind of crazy. This there is almost like an opposite then. Like the chin or whatever, the nose, the brow. I don't know. This thing has like an opposite. Like if that's the negative, this is the positive. Like the dense mass that's got like material accumulated there, where this one seems to be like crystallized out material. This one I took pictures of because its shape is like this. This one, the opposite side, its shape is like this. Okay. Then we can very distinctly see lines here. Same one. Okay, this is a new one. This one reminded me of the hand one. Maybe I can find it, because it's pretty important. This one has a shallogram feature here, chakras, and then this like hand structure. So here's that shallogram or chakras. Here's the hand portion. So here's a good image. Chakras, hand portion. One like this, one like this. Kind of like those two discs that are layered on the sides. Oops. What? Oh. I was like, what happened? So back to, here's one disc, and then disc on the side. disc on the side. Another one of these with the little protrusion thing. Another maybe. Same one as the last one, another. This one really distinctly just snaps off here. It really makes no sense from a fossil standpoint. Like how perfectly it's just snapped. Like it's just missing. That's not really erosion. Just missing this whole chunk. Perfectly right there and perfectly right there in this whole chunk. Okay. This one. Where is the fossil? How did a shell do this? It physically wraps around the stone from a point. This way, though, where the extending opening just physically continues to wrap around the stone. So the opening that this side is forming opens into the opening that this side is forming, which means this fossil had two disconnected halves. It literally opens into it. It's so cool though with the little disc. Makes me think of the church wafer things. Poker. I've been playing poker. Trying to make that money, son. Ain't making shit though. I'm playing with free rolls. Don't worry. I got no money to even gamble with. I've been winning, but then I just lose it. Sooner or later, my bankroll will work out, but what a waste of time. I'm just chasing cash for the sake of it, dudes. When I could be like doing this. But I literally need cash, and I don't want to work for the man. I'd like to work for society, but like, where do I get accepted for who I am? I'm not allowed in the world as me. I gotta pretend and play the game that I don't really feel like I have to play. Someone said that. And I'm like, oh, you feel like you what did they say? Like the peer review is for suckers. That's what they said I feel like. And I'm like, like it's not quite like that. Well, I feel like it's just I got other shit to do than to appease people's expectations. Like, I know merit when I see it. I don't need to like jump through hoops for your expectation. I guess it's the same. Not you specifically, pardon me, if you're offended by my words. uh, like, this is good enough. Literally just holding this image in front of a scientist's face and saying, so, we gonna talk? What? This is a fossil? You're gonna tell me this is a fossil? Oh my god. Here we go. What are we supposed to do? It looks like a battery. Like an energetic device made by nature. Like the Baghdad battery maybe got its understanding from people who were aware of other things as well. And not to say the Baghdad battery is in any way relating to this understanding, but like it certainly came from a time when batteries was a thing that were known, which are just totally different now. Okay, let's move on to this one. Another dendrite. So this is my interpretation. The current is moving around the stone at its boundary, and it physically wraps around the stone. So we can kind of see these like bigger openings here, where back here it's more like narrow channel. Over here it starts to open up. That's right here, so it starts to open up, and then it really starts to open up here, at which point it seemingly like does this thing. Interestingly, what in the, well, this one wraps around down here on the opposite side, coming up from this way, up, down, around, is this, I believe. I'm fairly certain. Maybe not. Maybe not. It looks like it's here. So that's this side. New stone. Okay. So we got this side. Comes around the edge of the stone. And then interestingly, this is going on. I don't know. All I know is that this dendrite feature is not part of a shallogram. Like, it's on a stone that is called a shallogram, but it's not part of a fossil. It is just on a stone that is called a shallogram. It's not part of a fossil. I don't... Unless we literally are like, well, there's a species that takes, you know, they live inside of the ammonites, dendrites. They really love it there. It's just amazing inside there for this species, and they tend to be found by themselves after having all died together in a shallogram stone somehow, and the fossil left behind their imprints, only their own imprints, and the fossil's gone. And so then this other species is what's actually doing this. Like, I don't think this is documented in literature and explained. I just don't think it is. It's as simple as that. I don't think it's explained because it can't be explained by fossils. It just cannot be. We explain it by hand waves of ammonites, and that's how we do. That's an ammonite, that's an ammonite. Fossil, boom, done. This also looks kind of like Gurnar. I don't know. Okay, this one I just found interesting. Is that at a corner, this tends to happen on the shallograms, where it's just add like a node. And this one, it has a flattened surface with these kind of like bubbling. It looks like it's kind of bubbling. Like it bubbled out something differentiated in the process. And that's what we see. Crazy, like this mushroom one. Mirror mushroom. Looks like it's like exactly mirrored. Cool layers in there. Smooth, we can kind of see remnants of what was a smooth coating of the matrix-ish matrix material on this like particle that was a nucleus that is like being split by the currents, seemingly formed by the currents and then shaped to then transform to different shapes, like a nucleus going through radioactive decay sequences or nuclear fusion sequences. This one, this again, I'll just point it out, that the common feature, inline, boom, boom, like to the boundary of the stone, not to the chakra, but to the boundary of the stone, where it begins to inwell, and then to the chakra from there is this angle. And then if we follow this chakra over here, it's pretty similar to the location of this here. Presumably that one's there. So like here, it's almost like exactly in line there. Dendrite type stuff. Whatever is going on here with this like lobe, which I've seen in other shallograms. I don't know if ones I talked about today. Here's another of those, like, it looks like a came in this way and then went out this way, but it like got pinched in the pressure of the stone here at the widest point of the stone. The inflowing current's boundary was limited the most. I don't know why it doesn't seem to do that more often. If that's why it did that, I'm just guessing based on thoughts that come to mind. And then it also seemingly had this like deterioration of the, like, this is pretty nice up here, like it doesn't look like it was really influenced, but this deteriorated like at the nucleus region of this almost, which is kind of interesting. And then it also seems to have differentiated these materials on that boundary from this material and this material to be something else, almost like a separator material that looks like it rings this down here. And I'm not sure what to make of that. I feel like I've seen red specks before. I don't know if it's someone doing it or on the stones. Here's a 3-layered one that's kind of reminiscent of the one I found recently. To be of interest, where is it? There it is. And this one, kind of reminiscent of this. Like, imagine like an actual, maybe there even is like a shallogram type shape in them. I don't know. Those, to me, they just were kind of like clear, weird looking, but maybe, so this maybe is very similar, like it's stacked of a big one, a little smaller, and then a smaller one that in some instances can stay more in line, creating this like stacked feature. But in this case, maybe the material was different, where that last one was just a different material. Enough a void was created and a different material was involved somehow. I don't know. Whoa. Another node, maybe node. Here's another one with like a beam going through. Again, maybe pinched by the width of the stone to a narrow point. That then, interestingly, has this thing that then is kind of circular, but then it starts to branch out. Like in larger, to like an hourglass neck, like a figure eight type thing, of more shallogram. Like, really, honestly, like, what is going on that this beam, seemingly, what seems to be a beam that flowed through this like the other ones and differentiated the materials substantially in ways, also cause shallogram like things, which really, like, again, the stone's width, so maybe that's all it takes is a current flowing through a stone that has like or some kind of system that has a different radius as the current travels through it. Like over here, the distance of the amount of material around the current is not compacting the current as much as at the center, and that is just how it goes. That is just how it goes. To a point where sometimes it can physically compact it all the way even, and maybe cause it to thread through and come out the other side, where it really doesn't even have a wider, I don't know. Another one of the, just looks like a current's coming in. Just real straight. Just so straight, and then gone. Just abrupt, but like not so abrupt stop. Smooth stop, but abrupt. Smooth, but abrupt stop here. Disconnected, but like segments of the process here, but also extending over here, interestingly. Like, this one looks really like, if it was without this one, we would probably just say it was part of this fossil, if we were to like look at this. Oh, this is part of this fossil here, over here. It was all part of this, but then like ignoring this thing. But then this thing kind of makes this here a little questionable. It's like a current came in and just hit resistance, maybe? I don't know. Hit resistance and splattered back this way like a... This almost looks like a flame. Like something was happening where a current was like flaming out this way, maybe? Possibly because it was coming in and meeting like enough resistance in this region to just cause it to flow out this way like a flame. I don't know. Looks like this here is possibly related to like an under chakra system where back pressures probably were. Just a regular, like what the... And then perfect straight lines to the boundary of the stone with just... It looks like on like a Photoshop with a line that's like a width and then like... It has like a straight edge line, like it looks like a line, like with a straight edge boundary to the line and width and everything. This one, we can see this shallogram here kind of just bends upward and then like possibly feeds through this region to then be connected physically to this. So it doesn't actually take a like linear shape like this angle. It kind of threads up here. It preferentially shapes in the direction of this. And a more circular system over here that looks like it's branching off another circle here. This just goes straight through, I think. I'm not, or maybe not. Here's a chakra. Oh. Not sure if there's one that goes straight through. I guess not. I guess not. Okay. Disregard. We've already seen at least one that goes straight through. Maybe that was it. I don't know. I think there's others that are more revealing. So just another dendrite. And then again with the feature below it. Way less pronounced. Like it's just kind of subtly there, which is interesting because it's at the base of the stone. Like had enough current to push this boundary up further, maybe it would have formed it more like here with the dendrite up higher. And then this feature just forming a more dendrite-like thing, but now it's just like a little V. Same stone. We see these little dots. Somewhat near the stone's like boundaries. It's almost like a wave that at the peak and trough can produce like particles somehow. It is fundamental physics on display if we can reason through it. This stone here, scientists who want to explain to me that this is a fossil, please. This stone here, how is this a fossil? When it has the dendrite feature wrapping around the stone as one single continuous feature. That just wraps around the stone, and then atop it, it has this little cap thing going on, which is kind of interesting. This is what happened to Earth. Like, here's Western Africa kind of thing, where like current flowed in all directions where it started to run into itself, and so in essence it just stayed running into itself and bent and like warped the shape and just bends into this dendritic thing, like more like this, and just begins to fill the space from these colliding currents that then dendritically branch out to fill that space. And then probably because they're colliding, have an exchange between them, like at the boundary, and maybe flow opposite one another in a way where they're like there are two currents here, one going this way, one going this way, that then are the same and at times can vibrate out, but they don't seem to here necessarily, where like yeah, I don't see anything vibrating out. I'm not sure. I've never seen anything like that. Like lava can have like a current this way, current this way. Depending on how many adjacent polygons, it can even have like multiple currents, all sorts of things where there's like different fractures between like segments of solidifying magma that are like cooler, and then between them the currents flow but not always in sync. My yin yang underground science video, I talk about those videos specifically that I found most of interest that brought that idea to mind. This one I found interesting because it has this flat segment here. It almost has a roundedness to this portion, like again, like that like passing current that maybe entered this way through here and then like went through pores as it shaped the stone over here, but like was able to enter over here more easily. I don't know. I just mostly found this interesting because of how flat that is. It's like it was always that flat. It's perfectly flat. Like, what? That would mean the stone that, like, essentially, in order for this to happen, this fossil would have had to perfectly fossilize a stone that then later on was shaped perfectly with the stone. I mean, it doesn't really make fucking sense. Pardon the cursing. Pardon my cursing. Pardon my mockery of pardoning my cursing. Okay, some more outlets here. So one big ol' inlet, many, many tiny little outlets where it's just like, ah. Just a cool stone. I didn't know what to make of it. Here's a better angle, maybe. Wait, no. Okay, this is this one, still that one, still that one, still that one, new one. Okay, new one. That's... Okay, cool. This one looks kind of out of balance there. Also, maybe out of balance with respect to the main system. I don't know. Like, what? I assume right here is right here. It doesn't really look that much like it. I guess because it's just, yeah, now I see where it's this stretch. Is like right here. So this shallogram has another shallogram again on top of it here. I guess another one below it. I don't know, because that's not the same. Or is it? Is that the same one? I don't think that's the same. It's the same stone. I don't think that's the same opening, though. That's not the same opening either, and that's the same stone. I don't know what to make of this one. Crazy, though. Kind of like a current coming in and just breaking chunks of the stone off. And then flowing out. Creating like a bubble, I guess. I don't know. Just straight opening through the stone. Perfect. Like, perfect. Okay, we can kind of see little things there that maybe, I don't know. I was thinking like this kind of thing, but like a opposite, I don't know. Maybe it's related to to this chakra specifically. It could be its own separate adjacent system, but I don't know. Another one. Okay, here's one of the ones with a hole straight through, and it's got the little thing, the little ramp. So maybe it did the thing where it came in and was trapped and went out to the boundary, made a boundary, and then just kept like maybe ramping out. Like maybe this is like a place where it physically removes material out somewhere, somehow. No, they're those rake type things that don't necessarily make sense, although, yeah, this is way more like normal shallogram looking. Lots of features here. I don't know, like the beam thing again. That looks like like a conch, maybe. Is that the word? Seashell. It's interesting. I don't think I've seen many or any of those. Here is seemingly this opening from this angle over here, where it's just got this perfect two channels even, which maybe is because it has it's a larger scale process where there's just like flows going one way and then flows going another way and then branching off fractally at different scales. And this is one of the more larger fractal ones than like the dendrite around the rock one that's maybe composed of subtle ones that aren't even detectable necessarily, except just by like microscope or something. Maybe we could see things of that nature. Another one with the chakra just like through the shallogram, just through the stone, like no fucks, just through the stone. And then carved out the boundary, and then the stone's just smooth around it. It doesn't make sense. Like, why is this not? If like the whole of the stone was smoothened to like remove down to a certain point, then like why are the features still so pronounced? Oh, it's concreted or something to made more like solid and lingering and against erosion. All right. What about over here, though? Like, it seems to perfectly have eroded the rest of this shallogram. And this shallogram, like the rest of the shallogram. Just not the features within, which were exposed to erosion in all of these that are like this. Like, they were found like this. No one opened the windows to these shallograms. More currents going around the stone, all interconnected. It really does seem like a little micro planet that had like bodies of water held to it by gravity that carved it like water does to the earth. Features coming off of it, branching off of it. Arcing off of it, I don't know. I think I just mostly took pictures of this one because it had a lot of features. I didn't know what to make of it though. Looks like a current probably was going this way just based on this. But that's about all I got to say right now. Okay, let's keep going. It's getting late. I'm gonna find some. This one I found interesting because it reminds me of this one, which has two particles splitting. Pardon me. This one, just a particle. Two particles splitting. Like here, I feel like there's a particle kind of lodged here, and then another one here. So like a small and large one that almost are like being shaped out of the stone. I don't know. Here's the top of it. A lot going on again with those side angle stuff. There's a lot going on. We already looked at this one, looked at that one, and we Gucci. See you next time. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. Peace.